Hi everyone, welcome back to the Looney Bin. My name is Looney and welcome to this month's shipping in video where we go into the shipping communities of your favorite media such as anime, manga, video games, and more. And I've been in sort of a Street Fighter type of mood. I've been playing Street Fighter pretty much a lot recently. I recently just streamed it, trying out Mai as a character, and I thought, you know what? This would be a perfect time to do a shipping in video for the shipping community in Street Fighter. Now, I'm not the most knowledgeable about being in the Street Fighter community just in general. I never really got into fighting games. Street Fighter really, one of the biggest things about Street Fighter that really got me interested in it were the characters, was the lore, as well as it being a Capcom game. I'm a fan of Capcom games in general. So, what kind of community was there in Street Fighter in terms of shipping? I never really got into much of the shipping community. It's not necessarily one of the biggest things or part of the biggest parts of the fandom in general. Shipping in Street Fighter is very niche. It's not like a lot of the other shipping communities that we've gone over with my other shipping in videos. It's relatively big in comparison to most fighting games, because when people think of fighting games, they think of, the combos, which character is meta, which character is top tier, which character is low tier, and really just watching, events like Combo Break or Evo. That's where a lot of fighting games usually revolve around, and not much talk about the shipping aspect of, fighting games. In Street Fighter, I think Street Fighter probably has some of the strongest shipping communities amongst fighting games. I think other than Mortal Kombat or even Tekken, there's not much, it's very hard to find a really large shipping community amongst fighting games. Maybe you could have one with something like Dragon Ball Z, Dragon Ball Fighter Z, or whatever the game is called now. I keep mixing up the names of the game, so my apologies for that. Or maybe even some Blast Blue maybe has something. But for the most part, most fighting games don't have a strong shipping community. In Street Fighter, there is one. And a lot of people do participate in, the shipping fandom. For me personally, the ship that I really enjoy in Street Fighter really is, I enjoy it to the point of I'm interested to see what the next Street Fighter game has for these two characters. And for me personally, I'm more of a Ryu and Chun-Li fan. I think the ship is great on the basis of their friendship. They respect each other. I thought, both of them were really a good ship. That being said, there's not much shipping going on in Street Fighter lore. A lot of the Street Fighter lore doesn't really revolve around shipping. It revolves around just like Ryu's backstory or whoever the main character is for the certain Street Fighter game. In terms of anything else, there is some lore that backs up some shipping. If I remember correctly, there's this old comic book where Chun-Li grew up with, I think, Ryu and Ken at some point, and then she had a crush on Ken. There's also one, I think it was a TV series or something, where Cammy had a crush on Guile and stuff like that. It's very low key. It's not like a big part of the Street Fighter lore, right? So to say that Capcom is doing something story wise in terms of shipping, aside from Ken and his wife and stuff like that, there's really not much going on in terms of lore. But that doesn't stop shippers, obviously. Shippers will be able to ship anyone. Sorry about that. Shippers will be able to ship anybody. And they will continue shipping until, they just move on or they're just done with Street Fighter shipping. In terms of the community, really there is some infighting within the shipping community, but it's not really in terms of, a strong enough beef where there's an eternal war. Most shippers in the shipping community tend to stay in their own lane, stay in their own space, and just enjoy it through fan fiction, fan art, and so on. Like I said, there's not much going on in the lore of Capcom, of Street Fighter, that really could point to any direction. right? So a lot of the stuff that the shipping community does is usually fan related, right? And there's nothing wrong with that. I think fans should, fans technically do make the shipping community, I guess is the best way to put it. And really, the only real infighting is like really who Ryu is shipped with and who Chun Li is shipped with. You have Yaoi ships such as Ryu and Ken. You have Yuri ships such as Cammy and Juri and stuff like that, or Chun Li and Juri. Because they're like polar opposites of each other. It's there's some infighting in terms of that. Like for Ryu and Chun Li, there's Ryu and Sakura. Although Ryu and Sakura is a little strange, simply just because Sakura is like younger than Ryu in a lot of ways, and they don't really, at least from my perspective, don't really have like something like romantic involved. A lot of it is just idolization from Sakura's side because she idolizes Ryu, right? But yeah, other than that, there's really not much really huge going on in the shipping community compared to like what other shipping communities are like in Naruto or Bleach or My Hero Academia, or in terms of video games, like any games with Persona, or Final Fantasy and stuff like that. The shipping community is very mild in comparison, and frankly, people in the Street Fighter shipping community are mostly chill from what I have experienced or what I have seen. There's always going to be debates about like, are Ryu and Chun-Li ever going to be a thing, or is this ship ever going to be a thing? But for the most part, there's not really like some big war that is spread across the entire community, because again, it's a fighting game. Fighting games tend to not have really a huge shipping community. They can, in comparison to each other, but for the most part, most of them are chill and just mind their own business, which I wish a lot of other shipping communities are like too, where shippers mind their own business, and the rest of the like franchise community can just be separate from everything else and just chill on their own. But yeah, I mean, it's a short video. It's really not much to really talk about. Maybe one day Capcom will reveal something in terms of like Street Fighter shipping. I do not see it currently, so that's kind of a little disappointing. But I think, for me personally, I think I really like the ship between Ryu and Chun-Li. And, you could point it to, him being the main hero of the story and Chun-Li being the main heroine. And that's like a huge, thing as to why people ship them, There are hints here and there, but nothing concrete, I would say. Because at this point with Street Fighter 6, where Ryu and Chun-Li are like in their 50s, sorry, Chun-Li, there's really not much else. It doesn't seem like nothing will ever come out of that, And, you have other characters who some people believe are, lesbians, or some characters are more in a yaoi ship and stuff like that. But at the end of the day, Street Fighter is a really mellow shipping community. You really only get infighting or like a big debate in shipping when it comes to certain ship, very small ship wars that don't really escalate into the Street Fighter community as much as something like Final Fantasy VII shipping community, where the shipping community really like plug themselves into the rest of the community and everyone just hates, them because of that. Street Fighter, at the end of the day, is a fun fighting game that I enjoy. It's my favorite fighting game franchise. It's also the one that I could play at least decently well, aside from Smash Brothers. And really, if you are a fan of anything shipping wise in Street Fighter, yeah, have fun, man. Like, it's fun. These characters are great. I really enjoy the Street Fighter characters. That's like one of the major things of any sort of franchise that I enjoy, that if I can really connect with the characters, or their characters unique and I love them, you got me hooked. It's similar to how I feel about Overwatch, right? The characters hooked me, and then Overwatch just became a multiplayer where like they completely ignore the lore or don't even do story mode, which pissed me off about Overwatch 2. But regardless, that's for another shipping in video. Street Fighter, fun shipping community. If you enjoy it, you enjoy it. If you have fun creating fan art, fan fiction, have fun with it. But overall, the shipping community is very small. It's not entirely really big as compared to other shipping communities, and because of that, it's actually a lot more chill than others. I could be wrong, because some people can have different experiences, right? That's just how it works. Everyone has different experiences in terms of shipping communities or whoever they ship, right? If you are on one side, you only see the positive sides of that ship. If you are on the other side, you only see the negative part of that ship. But it's all based on what side you're on and how your viewpoint is, which is why I try to take a lot of these and be neutral as much as I can. But for the most part, yeah, have fun. As a member of Street Fighter community, I read some cool Ryu Chun-Li fan fiction that I enjoy, so definitely check them out if you're a fan of that ship and any Street Fighter ship. So thank you so much for watching. Hope you enjoyed this video, and I'll talk to you guys soon.